Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back here with some special coverage today. Very excited for this interview here with Taran Armstrong. Taran, what's going on?
Not much. The house has been a little quiet today, so
Okay, well,
yeah.
a great time then to spend some time with somebody that we got to know last year in the Big Brother house. And of course, we saw him most recently in the Challenge USA house. Here with us, it's Kyland Young. Kyland, how are you?
What's up, guys? I'm doing great. How you guys doing? Glad to be
Yeah.
here.
Very excited to get to chat. We just got to see you play another game this summer after coming off of last summer. So excited to get the chance to do this. We'll take some questions live with Kyland. If you have them here, you can just go ahead and post them in the chat and we will ask them later on. Kyland, what's new?
No, I mean, I've just been back in LA for the past month or so, which has been nice. Probably 2 months now since it's September now. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like after the challenge, same thing after Big Brother, I was traveling a lot, and then after the challenge, I was traveling a lot, and just to be in one place for a couple of months now, almost completely, has been really nice. Able to focus on catching up with some friends and working on fun stuff.
When you went through the Big Brother process, I know people have been on the challenge from Big Brother before. Was that something that you had thought about going through Big Brother? Forget a all CBS challenge, but going the way of a Casey or a Josh or Fessy and being somebody who goes to the challenge after you play Big Brother?
Not at all. I actually didn't even know what the challenge was going into the Big Brother house. I found out the only reality TV show I did watch was Big Brother, and then while in the Big Brother house, I got told about the challenge and was like, wait, what is this? They were trying to describe it to me. I was like, this sounds awesome. And then I got out and I started watching and was like, okay, I'm obsessed with this. And also, so now there's 2 reality shows that I watch. So it was, yeah, so it was, it was news to me at the time.
So you became a big fan of the show, and then they started to announce that they were going to do the challenge CBS. And so you must have been thrilled when that came up.
So, yeah, it was kind of like a back all over the place as far as how we were told. We first got told a little bit about the show coming up as maybe a challenge spinoff sort of deal, and just kind of gauging interest. And that conversation, and I was kind of once I saw the challenge, I was obsessed. I was like, I don't think I want to do some spinoff. If it's not going to be the challenge, I think that's more my interest. And then as soon as they're like, no, it is the challenge. It's just new. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. So that was pretty, it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty exciting for sure.
What was the more fun experience between Big Brother and the challenge?
Okay, more fun. The challenge is more fun, hands down. It's just fun. Especially if you I like those types of things. I like the extreme, exciting sort of things. But the actual, I love Big Brother, the game as a game more. I think it's a more complex game, and I just love that complexity of it. But yeah, the challenge is just more fun. And also it's like summer camp. I think people forget. I was just talking to someone that was watching, I was talking about the emotions you see on Big Brother, when people get evicted. And I was like, that's the thing, is that it's so hard to explain, but it literally feels like life or death. So when somebody leaves, you're like, oh, they died, and possibly I helped kill them.
Yeah.
And it is gut wrenching. Whereas the challenge was all right, yeah, I'll see you in 2 weeks or whatever. It's just your friends leaving a sports game that they lost or whatever. So it just has such a chill vibe to it, and it's just so fun, so extreme.
Yeah, and coming into the challenge, it must have been more fun to come into it than a show like Big Brother, where you don't know anybody, but you knew so many people coming into the challenge that I'm sure that sort of helped with the adjusting to that show.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did. I'd gotten to meet obviously we knew our cast, we knew. I'd met a few other people. I'd met James before. I think I'd met I don't know actually who else randomly, I didn't even remember. I met Ben at Hearts of Reality, took a picture with me even. He took a picture with me, but I said, never watched Survivor.
Did he know who you were? He was like,
he knew,
hey, Kyland. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. So when we were at, so that one was funny because I actually didn't remember him. And then later on, I was looking at my phone. I was like, oh, I sent it to him. I was like, yeah, I have this picture of us. But it was cool to for sure, be there with some friends and make new friends.
All right. We want to talk about the challenge, but we have a Big Brother eviction to talk about also today, and just this has been a very emotional week with everything that's gone on in the Big Brother house. Do you have any thoughts as you've been watching this as a spectator this past week?
Yeah, I mean, it's been complicated for sure, which the game is in itself in so many ways. And me and Tiff, we did a deep dive kind of into a lot of the things that were going on. I'm still happy to talk about any specific questions, but I talk a lot, so it was like her longest episode. So I'm trying to. It's on brand for me, but I want to manage.
Taran knows, okay.
As long as you're not whispering to us, I'm good.
Fair enough. We actually got in trouble, funny enough, on the challenge because they're like, yeah, all of you Big Brother people whisper all the time. They literally had to talk to us. Like, it's too quiet for our mics. Like, we're not made for this. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many different factors at play in the game. People a lot of times, they'll talk about if you squeeze an orange, then orange juice comes out because that's what's inside, and they try and use that like analogy for Big Brother, as if like every single psychological study that puts people in extreme situations doesn't show the opposite, that people move out of the character, people move out of things. So it is difficult to see like people in the house, people outside the house, like kind of really taking their own assumptions, and everybody's watching it outside like, oh, if I was this person I would have done this or whatever, and it's just like, maybe, but probably not. Like if you're there. So I don't know, sorry, that's a more broad answer, but like I'm happy to talk on
go back to
anything,
what you said about the orange and orange juice comparison, because I think that's a really interesting thing to talk about, because I guess I've always thought about these shows, and specifically like coming from the world of Survivor. Like, I kind of felt like that. Well, part of the beauty of Survivor is that you're sort of like out there and sort of like with nothing, and you're sort of like the person of you that ultimately comes out is like some version of the truest self. But I have to say, like, and I feel that way like as a spectator, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case of like, is the most feral version of you like is who you actually are. I'm not sure if I agree with that.
That's my point. Yeah, I mean, it's literally like, you'll watch people behave a certain way and you'll be like, well, this is just their true colors when they're dealing with extreme stuff. It's like, I don't think that Taylor's true colors are when people are mean to her, she sits and cries. I think that she was just pushed in this very extreme environment. And going back to like that first week when we saw her kind of like crying by herself when so many things were piling up and dogpiling on her, like, I guess that's the extreme that I take it for everything, is just like, hey, we're seeing a very specific, or you have people going into a game and they'll literally go into a game saying like, hey, I'm really excited to not be my normal self here. I'm really excited to be, a villain. Sometimes they'll literally say that. Or to be whatever, like, to do all these things that are just out of character. And then you add in the layer of that they're playing a game. And there's so many factors that would just make it, that open itself to question that thought. But granted, you do get to see, I think that you do get a inside view into so many aspects of society, and the fact that like you get to see group think, group mentality, all these things, and I think that those play a role too. I think that sometimes there can be key moments, key individuals that can kind of shift an entire group of people to act one way or another.
Yeah, I definitely think it can shed light on aspects of who you are, but I definitely also think that part of who you are, part of your makeup are the elements of yourself that are being stripped away by a show like this, like Survivor or Big Brother, right? So like if you take those things away, if you take away the things that you almost never would be stripped of in normal life, then you are taking a different version of yourself into that house, into that game. And I do think that's like an interesting way to view it.
No, I think that, yeah, we curate our lives, and I think that there's difference between you know faking stuff or versus like actually just like, no, like I very intentionally put forth this effort to do this because I have access to whatever tools outside of these games that you might have access to do that.
Yeah, like if your brain is like, if like your prefrontal cortex is damaged and you don't have like this filter on your brain anymore, then like, is that your more true self? Like, I don't think so. I think you've lost a part of yourself at that point, right? Like, so stripping those things away, like, definitely is a, it's like perhaps amplifying different aspects of yourself, but it's not your truest self, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think, and I'm not speaking to any individual in the house or any specific conversation. I'm just speaking as a whole in general. It is, I don't know. I feel like I always watch the shows, as a fan, and now ever since I came out of the house, like the very first thing that was taken away was just like almost the judgment of I am. When I see somebody do something, I'm like, well, this is obvious. Why would you do that? And I'm like, well, it's probably like people tend to not want to be unreasonable and to not do something that is openly like dumb. So either A, they don't understand, like that's just not in their strengths, the strategy to see this move, or B, for a whole bunch of reasons that we can't understand, it makes sense to them. Like I was telling Tiffany, I forget if it was before or after the podcast, but it's just like, you look at these games, and yeah, there's like chess because you're moving around all these pieces strategically. But then there's also poker, because the thing in poker is that when you're playing with somebody, you're like, yeah, I'm going to call. And it's not because of these cards that I have solely, like that may be a factor, but it's also because I saw your left eye twitch and I've noticed that's your tell. And like, we don't talk about that in the game, like when you're in the game, because sometimes we're not even aware of it. Like if you look at, Blink, Malcolm Gladwell, or any of the books that talk about like our ability to instantly recognize things that we don't consciously recognize and then make a decision based off of it. Like that's what's happening in the house all the time. And somebody's like, and then all of a sudden they're rationalizing like, well, I did it because this. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. It's like probably because that wasn't even the real reason. And they didn't know that what their real reason was.
Yeah. And I think that's sorry, Rob, but I think that's interesting to look at too, where like I do think there is still value in taking a look at okay, when these things are happening, when people are stripped of these things, when they're making these decisions, like what does that reveal? Like when we see that Taylor, being mistreated so poorly in the first part of the season, under that level of stress, under that load, like what is that part of her that is still existing, and to see her handle that with so much grace, maybe she cries about it, yeah, but she's also like so strong to be able to persevere through that, and it reveals, I think, that strength that is probably not tested that often, that severely. It's something that's probably built up because she has experienced these things in her life, but this is like really just like amplifying it up to 10. And here she is like managing to get through it. And I think that's another angle of like being able to watch what's happening and sort of examine like, what do people have when everything else is stripped away.
Yeah, it depends on what we want to focus on. Exactly. Like, are we going to focus on tears, or are we focus on, hey, she then collected herself and was always asking like, what is the, what can I do to help these people? Like if they're hurting, if they're upset at me, I must have done something. So like that, like you get to see both. You get to see like different aspects of people. And then the problem is when we create our own narratives as far as like, this is what this means about this person, or this is what this means, as opposed to like taking them as a whole. They're complicated and complex, and like as we all are.
Kyland, how surreal is it for you where that last season you were part of the Cookout, really historic alliance, and it was such a big deal that it's like a factor in this season where the people are talking about like, okay, well, I have to potentially make a move, what Kyle's thinking, because of what happened in the last season, something that you did. I feel like that's very, very rare on any of these shows for a move to happen in one season and people to be then like thinking about it and making, trying to work around that move happening again in another season.
Yeah, that is surreal. And it's funny because we joked about it a lot while we were in the house. Like as the cookout, we were sitting about like people, you know, it's like how quickly one side of it we joked on was like how quickly anybody's gonna want to we're like, yeah, whoever we're like, yeah, whoever comes into the house like is going to have that concern potentially of like this happening, of people working together, of people of color like finding the bond that we did and working together because of it, not having a full comprehension of like the mission and in terms of the historic elements of it never being done and like that drive. But then also we're like, I can imagine somebody coming in the house and like one black person immediately wanting to get out another black person just to show everyone like, hey, just so everyone knows I'm not a part of this game. Like we joked about it. And then I feel like we kind of saw some of that happening in the first weeks. And that's weird because it's like, that makes sense. And I kind of, and I don't think that that's a conscious decision for those people too. I think going back to that, I don't think that like, feel like maybe wanting to distance yourself probably is something that was happening in the early weeks subconsciously. And, but I can understand why, because like I said, we literally joked about it. So I don't know, it's weird, but some people have definitely gone online and been like, you know, this is a step backwards for whether it was something that one player said or another player said, or the treatment of Taylor or other players at various times. And I feel like the amount of conversation that we've seen, like in the media, on social media, everywhere, is indicative of the fact that like things have changed still. So like that at least still feels good in the sense of like, okay, the legacy moves on, that like we showed, you know, not just changing history as far as like doing what we accomplished, but now moving forward, it's like, hey, let's have conversations about why was that the first time? Why did it take this level of, you know, cooperation and gameplay or whatever in 23 seasons to get here? Those conversations started happening, and now we've seen them amplified and continue. And yeah, some of them are, you know, all over the place, but at least I think they're happening just exponentially more than they would have otherwise. So that feels really good as far as some of the legacy of the Cookout.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that, you know, like some people are drawing the connection of like, oh, well, this is happening because of the Cookout. But again, like the Cookout happened because this was already happening.
Yes.
And I think what we were actually seeing is that, you know, Kyle suspecting that the people of color might be working together. I don't think that's a direct, you know, there's a direct line of causation from the Cookout there. That's, again, something that already had been happening. What we're seeing from a direct line from the Cookout is that now Kyle suspecting that is being called out, and he's getting punished for it in the game, in the sense that like people are not okay with it. Whereas if that had happened just a few years ago, nobody would have blinked an eye, right? And I think that is an interesting, I think, way to view the causation of what happened via the Cookout.
No, for sure. I mean, I think that in itself is interesting, because it did give a breath to be able to exercise that thought kind of out loud. I think that he saw, you know, and granted, it seems like his background's pretty sheltered as a whole. So like, I think that there was not full comprehension of everything as to the rationale behind the Cookout, but the fear was there, because he's like, hey, I saw this happen last season, and I want to bring this up. And I think that is kind of it for sure. I think it for sure is bringing forth more conversations, like you said. I feel like that's a great point. Sorry, I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah,
It's all right.
it's a lot. So Kyland, so we're going to get down to the final 7 after tonight. Do you have a strong feeling about where you think the game is going to go after now Kyle goes out of the house?
I really don't. I don't even know who I'm cheering for at this point. I'm like, this final 7. I could see someone like a Terrence getting dragged along to the end, just as far as like people propping him up is just an easy win to have with them. I could see. I'm trying to think.
That's not what you would like. You would not go to the end with Terrence.
Well, it depends. Our season was different. Our season was an iconic season. I wanted to make it more iconic, but if it was a different season, then who knows? People play. Who knows how you play in different scenarios? But that was not what I would like to see this season. I can tell you that. I'm trying to think. Who knows? I feel like Turner is, that's kind of a weird aspect of this whole situation too. Is Turner's now basically was forced to make a decision that I think was not in the best interest of his personal game as far as making it to the end of this game.
Taran gave him a 2 in the stock watch.
2. Hey, I mean it, and I feel like, I don't know, that was one piece that for sure rubbed me the wrong way about some of this whole situation with Michael and Brittany talking about it, was because it was like, if they convince Turner, like, hey, this is good for your game, that would be an awesome game move. But like, that's not what happened. And it is such a complex, conflicting thing, because it's like, well, I'm happy about the outcome, but I don't love like the question that I pose to people is, do you think that Michael and Brittany would have done the same thing if, let's say, Turner had won the veto? And I think that the answer would probably be yes. And I think that then you could easily ask, would you have a problem with that and why? And then they'd have the answer. And I'm like, well, that same conversation should still be had now. Like, and even it's different, but it's still, there's valid aspects to it. So, but yeah, so I don't know. Michael has a run, but he does have to keep winning because he has that target on his back. So I can't even tell you where I think it's going to go next.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's like, okay, all right, Turner, you're the HOH. You need to do something about this. But I mean, Michael was literally the HOH last week. Like he could have, if this was such an important thing that he needed to get off of his chest and clear the record, like he could have drafted differently to make sure that this is something that, okay, I have I have to tell the house what's going on. And I got to put Kyle on my side, because, he needs to pay for, what he did. That's not what happened.
Yeah, I think the real question is like if Kyle comes back in, let's say Monty is clearly against Michael and Brittany this week. Michael wins the HOH again, or maybe Brittany wins the HOH again, and Kyle is very clearly on their side. And so instead of Kyle being on the other side, now it's Kyle on their side and maybe Monty on the other side. Do they have the same urge to divulge this about Kyle, and do they use their HOH to take Kyle out this week? I very much doubt it.
And Taran, correct me if I'm wrong. Michael was literally the HOH when Kyle first mentioned this, correct?
Yes, he was. And he at that time he was like very in with Kyle.
And it came up pre-noms, if I remember, right?
To hear Michael and Brittany tell it when it first came up, they were still unsure about what it was, and it wasn't until Taylor's HOH that it became more explicit. But personally, I know that when he first brought it up, he did mention the cookout. Like it was pretty clear, at least from Michael's end, right from the get-go. But yeah, I definitely think that that there's a lot of validity to the questioning of this timing.
And like I said, my answer to, do I think that there is, moral motives for Michael and Brittany's decision, or do I think it's a game decision? I'm like, my answer is just yes. Like, yes. I'm not saying that I don't, and I also don't believe, and I'm giving, I'm also a big benefit of the doubt person, but I feel like I don't fully believe that they sat there with the information thinking like, this is perfect to have in our pocket if we need it because we want to use it as this. Now, the question though comes like, it doesn't matter if that's what you were thinking, because that's the result. Not it doesn't matter, but it's like the result is the same because that's what happened. And so it's kind of like they even went to Turner and they kind of one of their like in the last episode, they caught a quote that I missed that was something to the effect of like, well, now we're just putting it on Turner that you get to make this decision how you want to move forward with this information. And that was where it got like, all right, now you guys are really putting emphasis in the position that you're putting Turner in. Like you're aware of it now. I don't think that was always their plan, but now as you do it, you're a little bit aware of the position this puts them in, and so it's not like completely like, hey, we're not realizing this is what it's doing. Yeah. But I give grace for everybody. They're playing a game. They're trying to do their best in a hard situation, and I don't excuse things, but I think that for me, I feel like there should be enough grace to have conversations with everyone and to allow for growth and understanding to be found.
Kyland,
but not everybody has to feel that way. I support everybody's right to feel differently.
For sure. Kyland, has there been a player in Big Brother 24 that you felt like was maybe the closest comparison to you as a player in BB23?
I feel like week one, the pregame, when we were looking at like the interviews, we all tried to do that, and we were just all so far off
Kyland, the day before the season started.
Yeah.
24 hours before the premiere, we did this. Yeah.
Yeah, we did, and I feel like we were just so far off then that like now I'm just wondering, like I'm like, who would we even think? So I don't know. Maybe I feel like maybe Taran's is a little bit deeper and may have better at least perspective on who might that line might be drawn to.
Yeah, I think it's tough, especially because like you did play the game in a pretty unique, I think, way, in just like how you operated and how you communicated with people. So I don't think anyone's a very close comparison. Maybe the closest would be like Joseph, in terms of like the way that he was able to make these like really good individual connections with people outside of the alliance. And like I'm thinking like with Indy and with Jasmine, in the same way that you were able to bond with like SB, and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's not a very close comparison, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They tried to have Taylor put him on the block that one time, so I feel like I like to be less associated with that.
Sure.
I have a question, because I think, strategically this week it's relatively straightforward. I think the biggest question on everyone's mind is that Monty's really trying hard to convince Taylor that if she wins HOH next week, she should take the shot at Michael. And I am personally of the opinion that I think if she wins HOH at 7, takes out Michael, I think that's not great for her, because then she can't compete at 6, and there's nobody else for the other side to take a shot at other than her at that point. I think that Turner, Alyssa, and Terrence all target her at 6, and she can't even compete, and I don't think that's great for her. But at the same time, Michael is this massive looming threat where the further he gets in the game, the closer he comes to winning out. So you can kind of see why, like, you'd consider it. What do you think Taylor should do in this spot heading into final 7?
It is so close, because like you could almost guess that Michael gets to final 4, then it's game over.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like where so does she. I think it comes down to how reliably she can count on Michael to not take the shot at her given his own opportunity. And I feel like he wouldn't. I feel like he has other people higher on the totem pole to go with. So I don't know. I almost feel like it could be beneficial to keep both, like a Turner, Michael, and Monty at a certain point, just that way they have an opportunity to, as far as people winning competitions, an opportunity to take shots at each other. At least there's some sort of competition left in the house for them. So I feel like her best shot, if anything, could be taking out like an Alyssa and Terrence sort of deal. People that, if they're gone, then I think that she would be the next person that people may want to keep moving along to the end. Just like, hey, let's keep bringing her further because I can probably beat her and stuff. I think is the perception outside of maybe those two getting the records. I'm pretty sure that's the records.
I feel the same way too. I think that if I was comfortable enough, if I'm Taylor, that I don't leave next week, I would just straight throw this Final 7 HOH, and then hey, if they take a shot at Michael and I still compete at Final 6, fine. The only issue with that is that if Michael does win that veto and he's able to save Brittany with it again, now she's in the line of fire a little bit. So if I'm Taylor, I think I'm throwing to anybody other than Terrence and Alyssa, because those are the two that would put me on the block. If I have to beat one of Terrence or Alyssa, I win HOH. I take out Terrence or Alyssa, and then let them take a shot at Michael at 6, and then just hope that we can beat Michael moving forward. I think that's the play.
No, that makes sense for sure.
Kyland, would you consider Big Brother again after? I know that you have a love for the challenge, but would you go through one of these like 85-day slogs again?
Oh, I would. I do. I don't know. I do love, like I said, challenge is more fun. Big Brother is just a game that I love. And I think that the only caveat I would have is I wouldn't want to do like a poll, 19 season of 1v like 15 where you need this extreme. It just
you wouldn't want that. That's
one
the
of
best.
the
well, yeah. If you get here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you get that the 4 weeks of safety and your friendship bracelets to build your built-in alliance and safety like right away, then for sure. And it is that is necessary kind of, because otherwise you just have the easiest target in the world. So I would want at least a group, even if it was like 4 people or something, like 18. That feels better. But given as long as it's not 1v15, unless I got some sort of awesome safety care package, I would definitely want to be there. Yeah, I just love the game too much. It's too much fun.
Okay,
with all the trauma.
Yeah. What do you think of Tiffany's tent at Big Brochella?
Oh, wait, it was called Tiffany's tent. I didn't even know it was called Tiffany's tent.
Right? Is that what it was called, Taran?
You said that
the game. You're talking about the game that they played?
Yeah. Tiffany came back and hosted the comp. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I was like tent. I missed the name, but no, I thought that was I thought that it was really exciting because Tiffany, of course, didn't tell anybody. So she had told everybody, she's like, or she had mentioned to me, because I saw her while she was out in California, and she had mentioned, she's like, I had to meet, I was meeting with CBS. They wanted to talk to me about some stuff, and I was like, okay, cool. And I'm sure we'll get more details later. And then she's like, hey, make sure you watch tonight. And I was like, wait, what? And then they had that little intro that teased like, which one Cookout? I was like, no way. And then when she popped up, it was really exciting. It was fun to watch. I was like, dang, that's so crazy that they show it to only half of the house guests too, because I'm sure everybody would have loved to see her. So I was like, they really got robbed outside. That is that's rough. Talk about going feral. They really gave an opportunity for some people to
could you
not
imagine
Survivor conditions, but pretty crappy.
If Taylor had been outside and didn't get to see the Tiffany hosting, that would have been a disaster.
Devastating.
Yeah, Kyland, how come your cast didn't shout out Rihanna as much?
Because we probably talked about it in the first week, and then someone told us that I forget who in the house. Somebody in the house said like Rihanna stopped watching like 2 seasons ago.
We'll find out, I guess.
So yeah, exactly. Maybe we'll find out now. So we just kind of gave up on that. Yeah.
All right. Taran, you have any other Big Brother questions? You want to let's talk about the challenge.
Let's talk about the challenge.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's really so interesting to me, just as somebody who like follows all of these shows, that the level of preparation that you did to go in and I don't know, again, I'm the challenge. That's not my sport. Okay. But to your knowledge, has anybody else done this kind of like prep work to go do the challenge? Like not even physically. I'm talking about like mental preparation.
I don't know. I haven't gotten to talk to everyone. I've gotten to talk to a few past challengers, some champs that like to kind of gauge like what type of training they do. I think that and then you got people like Jordans who are just extreme endurance, like athletes, hobbyists. But out, I'm sure that there are some. I definitely talked to some. I talked to some people that did try, that at least told me that, like, yeah, I know, or even if it wasn't themselves, they knew somebody else that like kind of mixed in some mental and physical training. So I don't know. My goal though was to set myself apart. But I do know some people. I've heard Tyson talking on a podcast about his own training. It sounds like he was getting similarly prepared. So
what, he like studied the show? I know he was like some of the things
You're
he was
right,
doing
yeah.
physically, but I feel like that.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't feel like he really did a lot of watching the shows.
Yeah, I definitely felt prepared to win a lot of things, at least to perform well at a lot of things, I should say, and especially like a final sort of event. So not making there was devastating, but also like that's the nature of being prepared for the game, is that people are afraid to see you in the final. So I understand that, and I feel like in general, the training felt like it paid off, because I was able to win like a physical and a mental challenge, daily challenge, and then the elimination was insane, and something that we felt really good about. And it was just like, all right, I think that we would have had a good shot against a lot of people with that. And then my own elimination, where I went out, it was just by that one question, and that's the sucky thing. Why they never put trivia in eliminations is because it's just like there's nothing you can do about it. Like you can't think harder or work harder. It's just, you're just there looking at this question about Madonna, like, dang.
You just needed to know. If you had the Adele question, would you have gotten that one?
Yeah, well, only because we had guessed like 4 or 5. We talked about after, and I was like, I would have said like 4 or 5, I don't know, and then we would have cycled up from there. I think it was 4 was the answer, but ours, they didn't show it. Me and Kira probably put in like 5 or 6 guesses, like more than the other team.
Oh,
did.
wow.
Because we switched one of them just to see, because we're like, okay, maybe we do have it right. We switched out 2 of them just to see, but then we're like, no, we know it's Madonna. So we just kept switching out Madonna. And I think once we were like going to hit the double digits, we're like, maybe let's go back. And then it was over. So we, so it's just kind of like we had a lot more guesses. And I think that those guesses, apply to any other question, the right direction probably would have worked. So, but who knows?
I know it was only on last night. I just wanted to say to people, we are gonna do spoilers through the challenge this week. So if you haven't watched it, it's not our fault. Okay, you got the heads up. But Kyland, I'm interested to know, how much do you feel like that your elimination on the show kind of changed the direction of where things were? Because that after you went out, then it was sort of, okay, here's the plan. It's Survivor men and Big Brother women.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely had an impact, because I think the fact that it went individual was pretty huge too, because when things go individual, like, it also has an impact in which we saw last night, like the ability to work together and to collaborate on different challenges. And so who knows, because it's also like, if we're talking my specific elimination, the alternative would have been that Alyssa wouldn't have been there. And then granted, I would have still, especially since it was women's elimination, I would have been prioritizing like trying to help out Angela to a high level. But who knows if they would have, who knows how far that would have gone if they still have been able to have the same results. So, but I'm glad just to see them willing and dealing, because it seems like that was a powerful deal that was made the previous week with Angela and Danny and some of the Survivor guys. And at least for this week, it seems to have helped.
You were tight with Angela and Tyson, right? Because like you were like the 3 big winners of the early portion of the season, and you formed, I think, this like winners alliance. And so do you think you would have been included in this deal, or do you think the deal would have been different if you had stayed?
That's what I was saying. It's tricky to think, because the deal involved Alyssa, and
Right.
as a female competitor, like that's an easy, more appetizing thing to like a Danny and Tyson, or Danny and Dom. than like a male, especially because, you know, me and Dom were at odds in the game ever since we put him in. So I don't know how how it would have shaped up exactly, but I do think Angela would have been fine either way. Like I think Angela in either in the if she went into that elimination, if she didn't go into that elimination, she would have been fine. So as far as like that makeup of whether or not Angela was saved, I think that stays the same. I think Tyson, you know, and in individual eliminations, I also just don't think anybody was going to call in me or Tyson. We saw it, like you know, even when Sarah, like whoever, anybody that was going in, like wasn't probably going to call out, I think, us. So I think that it would have only changed if, you know, at least in that up to this point, it would have been a little different, but some things the same.
Kyland, do you feel like that the show has accurately shown what you know, you and Tyson and Angela were trying to do strategically? Because I feel like I've heard Tyson talk about it on different podcasts, but I feel like I've never really quite seen it on the show the way that I've heard Tyson explain it.
Yeah, no, that's been the unfortunate thing about the show, which especially made it hard in like the earlier weeks when people are like, why are you not working with these people? It's like, because the show was literally just, the editing was not talking about it. And in week one, we had pretty much, a few of us had looked at this and been like, wait, we can't work with show lines, not with this algorithm. That's not going to be, some of us, that's not going to be our best path to the end. And then by week two, or challenge two, which both happened in the first week, we had already started forming like bonds, those early bonds. And then after that second elimination, it really started to solidify. And so, yeah, so the show has not really shown that to be the case, but yeah, that was formed really early and was just really the main factor. And it was funny because it had people in the house that were like kind of confused by some of the decisions that were being made, because they're like, wait, like, okay, I guess this kind of, we'd explain stuff and, you know, get people to nod along. And then once the curtain, you know, once people saw towards the end, they're like, oh, now everything makes sense to know that the people with money, like especially these, you know, early ones were protecting each other and protecting other people with money. So I just feel like it's an important, you know, part of the game that didn't really get a lot of light shed on it until the very latter episodes, I think, where they kind of started mentioning it. But just the weight that it held in the game for so many of us in our priorities was just so much more than anybody got to see if you just watched the show.
Yeah, I think that's been my biggest complaint about this season, is that I've felt so lost, especially coming from a show like Big Brother where I know everything. Like I feel so lost on the challenge in terms of like what is happening strategically. And like I don't know, it just feels like I'm not able to be as invested because I don't like the results of a challenge. I'm like, oh, I don't really know what this means for like what's going to happen, because I don't really know where people are going to lean based on like where they are.
It's that, but also it's like they don't really, I feel like, you know, maybe there's still a groove being found, because I feel like there's not even huge through lines, even for the stories that are being focused on. There's not like a comment that one of the other challengers had made me. They're like, I feel like I'll just watch a random episode with friends that have never watched any of it, and they're fine. Like they're fine enough. They're like, just, whereas Big Brother, you can't just watch a random episode and have any idea what's going on. But this one was just, it's kind of like self-contained episodes, so there's not a super strong through line in the stories. And the strategic conversations, it definitely is less. Like it's not, you know, it's not to this strategic level of like a game like Big Brother or Survivor, but it's still there, and it's just a lot less. But it is not to have so many of those conversations just not shown. The amount that we thought would be shown, we're like, wow, they didn't even show why this major thing happened. It was surprising to us to be saying that as much as we did for Big Brother. Like Big Brother, you know, you always have that feeling, you're like, wow, when you watch the show now, you're like, oh, they're not, you know, showing anything if you just watch the episodes. Whereas we found ourselves saying a similar thing for the challenge. Not to that level, but yeah, still.
Well, it's hard because I feel like with, Big Brother, and your Big Brother is on 3 times a week. Here we have 28 people in the cast, and then it's on once a week. And so, it's
and
hard
2 challenges per episode, basically.
Yeah. So basically the second act and the 5th act are going to be challenges. And so, there's not really a ton of other time to get to the other stuff. They have to really get down to just the very bare bones beats of the story.
What would you say is the biggest thing that you were surprised didn't make the episodes?
I mean, I feel like my main answer has just been a lot of the which isn't game related. It's just a lot of the comedic moments. Danny and Derek are just hilarious, both of them, and
together or separately?
Both.
Yeah.
As individuals, everything they say I feel like is hilarious. And then there's this crazy dance off between Justine and Cash and Sarah and Kayla that was more insane than anyone could ever guess. I'm like, they need to save that footage and use it for something. It was wild, especially for that combination. And those are things that stand out that we've been surprised didn't get shown.
Okay, this is a little off the wall, Kyland, but they start these challenge episodes with previously on the channel, and it's hijinks. It's people doing wacky stuff. How does that happen? Is there just a PA that's hey, want to try one today? Want to try one?
I mean, honestly, it is it's that mix. It's organic. Things are going on organically, and then the camera comes up and is like, hey, you guys look like you're having a good time, or Leo's holding a cat, or whatever is happening, or we are and also they would we would come up with our own ideas too. We'd be like, oh, this would be a funny, you might just be doing something. We sat randomly in the empty hot tub and we're like, well, let's do something in here or something. Yeah. And ideas come together. So
is that a Challenge USA original, Kyland, or does the MTV Challenge do those also?
They do them also. Yeah.
Okay.
And previously on the Challenge, they do them also. So it's
Was there a lot of obviously the what show you came from influenced the strategy, but was there also any rivalry just socially about which shows are better, what what it means to be a Survivor versus a Big Brother versus Amazing Race? Was there any of that?
I mean, not so much in the game as much as it's funny because I was in there very much okay, I knew I wanted to play an individual game. I knew I had my select people that I had their back to various degrees as much as I could, but wanting to look out, play an individual game because we didn't really feel like we had that opportunity on Big Brother, and the members of the Cookout specifically. So I had already planned. I was like, you know what? If show lines work, great. But if they don't, and then we saw the algorithm, and it was just this isn't going to make sense. So I think that after watching the show, though, I'm a little bit okay, show lines weren't really a factor as much as this edit is making. But I do kind of feel a little bit inside. I'm like, man, maybe I do want to go back and just rep Big Brother. And even I'm to the possibly even if it's not my best move, I'm do I want to protect Big Brother people just to make a statement? I won't do that. But the thought did cross my mind because I'm you have a little bit of pride in your show. I will say, and I'd be interested, Rob, where you sit on this, but pretty consistently we've noticed that everyone from Big Brother is not everyone, but at least half are open to doing Survivor, and a percentage actively want to do Survivor. Yeah. But I don't think we've met a Survivor person who's yeah, I'd love to do Big Brother.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel I don't know what it is. I feel that a lot of people that go on Survivor tend to probably be a little bit more outdoorsy and sort of have and the idea of being confined in the house. I'm probably one of the weird people that I once upon a time wanted to be on Big Brother and ended up on Survivor, and that's how I got into this whole mess. but I think it's very rare. That's a good observation because I feel like that, not a lot of survivors. I think they would just go like stir crazy sitting in the Big Brother house.
I feel like when you play a game for $1 million in 28 days or 42 or whatever, like or 39, then you're like, oh, I want to spend 100 to compete for half of that, or I guess now three-fourths of that, like
right.
Although, as they're pointing out in the chat, Suri has recently said she would play Big Brother. So,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
she would be the perfect type to make the transition where people that are like super social Survivor players who aren't really challenge threats on Survivor, I think are like the perfect people to go and make that crossover to Big Brother.
It needs to happen.
That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. What would you do Survivor?
Yeah, I would definitely do Survivor. I haven't watched that. I've just started watching it really after the challenge, just out of like to see some of the people, like, you know, you want to see your friends, see what they were like and crack up with them. So I've started watching some. Honestly, though, I don't have a good grasp of it. I've only watched 1.5 seasons now.
Which season did you watch?
So the first one I watched, was one that I told was not a good one to start on, but somebody had recommended it to me randomly for a lot of reasons. But it was the one that Chris won with the edge of extinction.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Which I told like was not a great place to start.
Why that one out of any of the seasons? I feel like there's nobody from the Edge of Extinction that's even in the challenge.
So that was before. Sorry. So that one was before the challenge. Before the challenge, I'd watched it. Because 2 people on that season were called out as like, hey, you're probably going to see these people, so you should check out this season. And then neither one of them were there, obviously.
Oh, man.
So
I'm trying to think of who from the Edge of Extinction.
Joe and a girl with
Kelly Wentworth. Hair. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they were like, yo, yeah, look out.
I don't know if we're gonna see Joe anywhere anytime soon.
You know, that's what I've learned since. And then after that, I started watching. What was it? 18 Tyson's first season. Yeah, and then I'm gonna go over to probably Sarah's and Ben's, and I'm try to. I'll catch yours too, Rob. I'll catch them all now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I'm learning the game, but it's very interesting for sure.
Did you have any interesting experiences with Sarah or Ben from because I know that you're aligned with Tyson. Okay. And Tyson has had some issues with those two on various different shows. Did you sort of like inherit any of those issues, or you didn't have any sort of rocky patches with them?
So prior to Tyson putting in Sarah, I was great with both of them. I feel like I'm honestly like, I don't know, everyone has their views, different people. I had great experiences with them for most of the time while I was in the game. I'm granted we're playing a game, so who knows, but they just seemed very friendly, and we just got along really well. Had lots of things that we talked about. I love having conversations in general with everybody. So it went really. I didn't have any of that. I was learning about it, and in general, both in the games and outside of the games, I try and like not even play neutral, but just play like, hey, like I'm not gonna let my relationships be defined by other people. So like whether that is, 2 people don't get along, if I don't feel one of them is doing something that like, which granted, if I'm friends with them, I'm going to talk to them if I have huge disagreements with something, but I'm not going to be like, if you guys don't talk, then I'm not going to talk to them necessarily. I'll try and, that's just me. I de-escalate. I try and bring the peace, try and find the connection. So I didn't know how deep it was, but I started learning along the way. And then after that week, then it really got solidified to where those sides were just very, the lines became a lot deeper. So then it kind of transferred everywhere. But
Well, so speaking of Survivor, I feel like for a long time now, it's been we've been waiting for somebody to do all 3 of Survivor, Big Brother, and The Amazing Race. But now with the challenge, Rob, do you think
it's a Grand Slam?
Yeah, has it turned into the Grand Slam? Do you now need to, if you want to hit all the like competitive CBS reality shows, Is it now out of 4, which means Kyland, you'd also have to do the Amazing Race if you want to beat everyone to the punch here.
Very true. I gotta hop on, but
I mean, DX is on his way, right?
He's on his way.
He's now got
really though. Really,
3 out of 4.
And he shot 3 shows in a year. My guy was crushing, like, reality TV space. I was like, wow, that's lit. I think the third one will premiere. Premieres after Big Brother. No, while Big Brother's still going.
I think it is going to premiere. I think maybe the second week of. I'm not sure. You know what? Actually, you know what it is. I'm sorry, Kyland. Big Brother is having its finale on a Sunday night this year, so
yeah, we do know
it is
that.
going to take Big Brother's time slot after Big Brother ends.
Yeah, it looks like it premieres the 21st, and then Big Brother will end.
Oh, so is it the Big Brother or Amazing Race does?
Yeah, I think
Big
so.
Brother ends I think.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we might have, maybe we have one night where we have Survivor, Big Brother, and the Amazing Race. Oh my God.
Yeah. So this kid will be on TV 3 different shows in 1 calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
He is. Yeah. So I mean, we got to watch our TVs for him to pop up on Survivor. So
yeah.
If I call him and it goes green, I'll know.
Yes. Okay. Well, keep an eye on it. I mean, I'd be happy for Derek X to get that, because I feel like there's a lot of other people that I feel like that was the person.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be pretty happy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If that was the person, that'd be fun. I mean, he's just such a good guy. I think that's the thing. He's just such a good all around guy. But I remember him talking when he finally came clean about not really knowing the show at all, and he was just like, yeah, I watched. Then he was trying to lie about watching a lot of Survivor, and then that wasn't true either. So, but he would just say stuff, and you're just like, wait, have you ever watched these shows? He's like, yeah, so I watched 1 season of Big Brother at 2x speed, and then skipped all the competitions and finished that season and was like, yeah, I got this, and walked in the game. But so I know he does but I think he watched maybe a little bit more Survivor than that. Still not much, but we'll see.
Hopefully Claire had him binge some Amazing Race.
Yo, Claire binges all of them. She's on herself. Like when I found out, when it got announced that they were doing the Amazing Race, I was like, yo, we gotta watch out, because Derek's smart, but Claire's 2 times smarter than him and knows these games exponentially more. So I'm pulling for them, hoping that I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with no matter what.
Yeah, this should be fun coming up in a couple of weeks. So we have that to look forward to. Kyland, could we talk a little bit about the putting Xavier into the challenge, because I feel like it got a lot of attention when it happened. And, we talked about it briefly on the exit interview, but I feel like that we have some more time now to be able to talk about that, because it was such a big moment in the season. What didn't we get to see in the episode about how that came to be?
Well, I think that the biggest thing overall was for sure, the alliances, the money team, because that, like I said, had already been formed 2 weeks prior. So it was kind of just for the show, by not showing that, it left everybody confused. Wait a second, aren't they in the Big Brother alliance? That was never really a thing. So I think that was part of it. I'd say another part that isn't really seen is just the turmoil of the decision for myself and Alyssa, in terms of this is somebody that we feel is a friend and we have a relationship with, and me and him had even been building a lot of that relationship since Big Brother, since the end of Big Brother. And that was so on that personal level, I was dang, I don't want to do this. And that was a crazy thing too, because I was like, well, if I left, we had a conversation in the show where it's X talking 1-on-1 or 1-on-2 with me and Liz. And remember a friend told me yeah, I saw that conversation. From the second it ended, I could tell that you guys the look that you guys gave, you guys were gonna put him in. I was like, that's what's crazy, is we finished that conversation and we walked away from the idea of it. We're you know what, let's work with him, let's give him a shot, sort of deal. And then as we explored other conversations, and wait a second, he doesn't have the influence in the relationships to make him like an asset to us in this game, at least for me especially. And so then it ended up being like more of a game decision. It was funny because you mentioned Tyson's baggage. When he was gonna put in Sarah, he was just like, he's like, you don't understand. Like, this is like me. He's like, this is like you putting in X, but like giving me exponentially like more pleasure. He's like, I can tell it wasn't pleasurable for you, but this is all pleasure. I was like, all right, like go for it. Yeah. So that, I think that was that, you know, just not giving that full view of like, yo, like, you know, there's nothing personal here. It's just that, and people are asking about me getting, you know, getting back at getting sort of revenge. And I'm like, literally, I'm never in the show saying that a single time. Like, I never bring up Big Brother.
Yeah, Alyssa was saying it, right? And you kind of got lumped into that.
Yeah, and even her, like, I do feel bad because I feel like they edit and show it like as if that was her only reason for being in the game, as opposed to like the rest of her sentence, which was like, yeah, like I'd love to get this revenge if it makes sense for my game. Like, I want to win first. So if strategically it's good for me, I'll do it. If it's not, then I won't. And saying that kind of all season and then have it to never be acknowledged. So, but it has, you know, and we've seen up to this point, it's given her pretty strong strategic position in the house. And I feel like if not for Madonna was the only thing stopping me from probably getting to the end of the game. If we look at the challenges that came after, they kind of fit in the wheelhouse. And then the actual eliminations kind of fit in the wheelhouse too. So I think that, you know, minus the one thing, it could have been the strategic move for both of us to get to the end.
So are you more mad at Madonna or her husbands?
Oh man. I mean, I'm not mad at Madonna for, you know, live her life. You know, I'm just mad at myself. I should have known. I should have known the answer, and I didn't. I tried. I was so ready. I was like, you know what? I brushed up on a lot of like music, pop culture and stuff, because I feel like I'm always behind in music, and a lot of sports stuff. I was like, yo, let me learn all this stuff, and it came in handy in, you know, the trivia daily challenge. You know, so that was dope. And then even with the questions that we had, which none of that was study related, actually. The questions that we had were just all very they were just random questions. And I just remember Kira at one point like asked, like, how do you know? It was like, you know, Baker's dozen or no, it was the cow stomach one. It was like, how do you know? And I was like, I learned it. I don't know. Like, how do you know random stuff? How does anybody know random information? That
it's hard
they know?
to prepare for random stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was yes.
Yeah.
You said that you'd been building with Xavier like on a personal level, and so that was one of your hesitations. Did that decision damage what you were trying to build with Xavier? Or are you guys still like cool?
Yeah. So honestly, I thought that there was a good chance that it could, and we thought it did. Especially, you know, you could tell people were heated like when they were leaving, and then you guys obviously got to see even more so. How he did in the interviews, the confessionals. But then we talked like right after, and he's like, honestly, he's like, you were the person that made the most sense. Like, he's like, for your game, like, and he didn't even know all the information just from what he did know. He's like, that made sense. Like, I got it. So, you know, and having time to cool down, he's just continues to be, you know, a pretty class act. Yeah, so it was. He, you know, definitely seemed to be able to separate the game there.
Was there any challenge in particular that you did that was your favorite?
Ooh. So I feel like the building one at the beginning looked kind of badass. Like, you know, to rappel off the side of the building, like, just looks cool. But I had the most
But that
fun.
was the one where, and you had to go into the elimination.
You know, yes, that was troubling because literally we walked up and, you know, Derek like knows that like I've run rappelling and stuff like that. So he's like, and he knows I'm usually pretty good at math. So he's like, yo, this is you. Like, you can got this. I was like, yeah, this is me. Like, I got this. No problem. And so we, like I said, when me and Ozla got to the top and we were just flying down this building, like we crushed the descent. We definitely beat everyone, including Tyson and Angela. But it just, the going first on the first daily, we, had some we had the nerves and that threw off our communication. And so, yeah, we had one little math flub. So we got to make it up on what I was saying, or at least I got to make it up on my favorite. I think of the ones I got to do was the obstacle course one, where you and your partner had to do a little bit of swimming, climb up the ladder, and count the thing. So it brought in some swimming, it brought in some math. So I got to redeem myself on the math side. So that felt really good because it was a much harder problem too to solve. And yeah, that was the most fun. I will say my heart was broken though when I saw the scenes for one of the next dailies that they do. They're the only thing I wanted to do when I entered that game was I was like, besides win, I was like, I want to win and I want to have a Fast and Furious moment where I get to be on the outside of a moving semi truck. And it looks like that's what they get to do in, I think, the next episode. And that was pretty heartbreaking because that one probably would have been my favorite, I think. That just is a little dream of mine.
Kyland, is there any smoke between you and people from the regular MTV cast of MTV The Challenge? I know that Tyson and Johnny Bananas have been engaged in a war of words. I know you recently spoke with Johnny Bananas. Are you also staying neutral between the battle between the Challenge USA and the Challenge MTV?
I mean, I don't think that it's, I think you could be neutral while expressing, objectively that you feel like how you stack up against different people on the different shows. And I feel that I do think there was a lot of talk, even more so. I feel like I rarely have seen even challengers from MTV talk as much as just social media that just would watch and be like, yeah, the CBS group couldn't hold a candle to MTV. And I'm just like, I think that's true for a certain amount of CBS, a certain percentage, but there's a few of us that I think that, we do a lot more than just stack up to a lot of them.
Okay.
So I feel like that's just an expression of information more so than than a dig at anybody. It's just as
I think shots have been fired.
Yeah.
I think the war has begun.
Yes. Now, then Kyland, so if you went on a regular season of The Challenge, now, would you be considered fresh meat because it would be your first time there? Or do you have veteran status because you've done a challenge, if not Challenge MTV, at least a version of The Challenge?
I feel like that is, like I said, there's not as much strategy in the game, but that definitely comes into play based on who's there. Because I think that there are different challengers who play the game differently as they have to that can look at someone that is, the good thing is that I'm not like a big, popcorn muscly, like super yoked dude. Like a single's just a beast and just undeniably, you just look at him. There's no other question about how Matt, he's just such a beast. And he's the nicest guy too. He's so nice. But you look at him and that's like an obvious threat, I think, that a lot of the veterans can kind of go to. I feel like I like to think that I'm bigger and I'm capable, but I think that the versatility of the skills could make it seem like I could be fit in more with some of the veterans that have gone far in the game that kind of have that versatile skill set. So I'd love to see us work together like that, give them the opportunity, but it all depends on what the scenario is. If they bring us in and they don't bring in any other newbies, then yeah, by default, the CBS people will be looked at as, I wouldn't say fresh meat, but I'd say as the newbies to that group. And then we'd have, if that happened, then, then we'd see what happens from there.
Okay. Maybe somebody can put in a good word for you from the other Big Brother people.
Yo, exactly. We got some, we have some, me and Casey, Fessy, Josh, we got Amber. I got some cool folks over there. They've obviously put in work and done damage. I mean, we've seen Casey make it a final to every time she's competed and one win. Amber win on her first try. We've seen Big Brother come in and do work. and really changed the game. If you go back to like when Paulie and Josh and them first came in, they brought in a lot of Big Brother tactics that changed up how things got played. And I always remember there's a scene where Paulie like tries to make a deal with somebody. It's like a endurance sort of comp or challenge in the final. Maybe it's an aspect of final. And they say, this isn't Big Brother. You can't make these kind of deals. And like an hour passes. Like, all right, what's this deal that we're going to make? And like, stuff like that we brought in that seems to have an impact.
Kyland, speaking of Big Brother, last night, I don't know if you saw the episode on Wednesday night. They had a veto competition it was movie night in the backyard. We know you're a big film fan. Do you wish that you could have been a part of that veto competition?
I mean, it was movie night and slip and slide. I feel like that was, besides like my favorite competition, veto, all of them, HOH, that I was looking forward to was BB Comics. So that was epic. But the second one was slip and slide. And I was like, slip and slide just looks like so much fun. And it looks like such a battle and something that I feel confident in. And so seeing them do that, and it's mixed in with the movie. Yeah, it's like two of my biggest loves put together. I was pretty jealous. I was like, wow, these guys really did this. But yeah, it was that was definitely something that would have been fun.
Yeah. Did you go to see dear Evan Hansen in the house?
We did. Yes. Yeah. So, cause Chado won and Hannah won and she brought me the people on the block. It was cause there was 3 people on the block. So it was me, SB and X. And
how was it? It wasn't that good though, right?
So in the house,
it was great.
50 days in, like, it was one of the best movies we've ever watched in our lives. Like it was, It was wild how good that movie was. And like, I remember reflecting after, like, I don't know if it was that good. Like not that it was, I'm not gonna say it was bad, but I was just like, remember reflecting and being like, how the amount of tears, like, I'll cry in a movie. I'll feel it, all the emotions, and I'll cry. But the amount of tears that were happening during that film, it definitely highlights just what the isolation does to you, and just being away from entertainment that long. It really really shifts your perspective on what you appreciate.
Do you have any new movie recommendations, Kyland?
Ooh, new movie recommendations. So I actually just went with Derek and Claire and Moose, who's from BB Can. He's in town visiting. We went to the movies and we saw Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Yes.
That was super a fun surprise. The way I describe it is almost like a Gen Z heavy Knives Out-esque sort of like whodunit sort of movie.
Okay.
Not as good as Knives Out. Let me like, I think Knives Out is phenomenal. So not as good, but a fun time that's kind of that whodunit. And I was like, what else is out? Nope. I'm a big fan of Nope. I'm just a big fan of Jordan Peele. I think that this was a little bit more like a complex, like, always have layers, but this one kind of like smashed layers together in a way that leaves you feeling not as easily satisfied as I feel like Get Out and Us. But I think that I still appreciate that, that quality of it. But yeah, so those two are the two that stand out right now. I'm trying to think of what else is.
Did you watch Bullet Train?
Oh, I did watch Bullet Train. That was fun.
Bullet
Train. I love that style. Like, of just the different characters all come, almost Pulp Fiction-esque. Like, the super. And it was, and Brad Pitt just he brought such a charm. His role reminded me a lot of, like, I was like, this feels like a Ryan Reynolds sort of role that I expected. So that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun. You guys got any?
Taran would have more than me.
I mean, really just like Bullet Train was, in terms of like new movies that I've seen recently, I feel like I've been, there haven't been a lot. I know that there is a Park Chan-wook movie that's coming out soon, so I'm super pumped about that. I don't know what the name is, but he did Handmaid's Tale, and nice. Old Boy and the Vengeance trilogy. So pumped about that. But yeah, Bullet Train I was very surprised by, because I was like, the ads for that one were just like everywhere. I feel like I saw the previews like 5 million times, and I was so sick of it, I didn't even want to watch the movie. And then I was like, oh, okay, this was actually really fun.
Yeah, fun. Fun is a great.
I know
word.
somebody who saw it 3 times in the movie theater.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but I liked it. I did.
Yeah. Kyland, last summer it was a big hashtag, the Kyland complains, that came up on social media. That have you had any negative customer service experiences since you came out of the house, and was your newfound clout able to help you in any of those situations?
I feel like it does feel like what's it called? I feel like I had some issues with Delta and some stuff, and I do feel like they responded a little bit faster than normal. Since which is always sad because it's like, hey, help everyone. But the outside of that, I feel like nothing really. I actually had a fun thing with Chipotle. Like they messed up like an order, and we and then they ended up giving like some gift cards I could give away to people, like randomly. So
they messed up your order and said, here's gift cards to give to people. Basically,
yeah. I mean, well, they were just like, hey, they were giving me gift cards, and I was like, well, can you give me extra and I can just give some out to people? And they were like, yeah. So shout out to Chipotle, trying to make it right and trying to brighten people's day. I'll get so yeah, I mean, can I complain? For me, I like to draw the line, difference to draw a point to is how I'm not going to complain about this waiter or this specific rep who is helping me, who's probably underpaid and undervalued by this like big $1 billion corporation. But as far as just complaining about the $1 billion corporation on itself, on its own, I'm all about that. Like drag them if they're doing something wrong. I'm not gonna snitch and get somebody fired as an individual. I'm not gonna tell you the store number or name, but it is for the corporations I support. Drag them all you want. Tag me. Kai complains. I'll follow up.
So you'll jump in.
It's already happened. People are like, "Yo, we need Kai complains in this," and I'm like, "I got you." And sometimes
wow,
we can call it coincidence, but sometimes they get solved right after that. So maybe it's working.
Okay. I feel like this is a business opportunity. I feel like people can hire you to fight for them. It's like not quite you're hiring a lawyer. You're just hiring like a representative to complain for you.
Kyland, if you only kui what these movers did to Taran last summer.
Oh no,
he could have used you.
Let me know. We'll get after.
He could have used you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was happening while you were in the house. You were occupied.
Oh yeah, one of my friends just moving. He had a moving company issue too, but we didn't even think of that, So yeah, that could be rough. But it's yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's all fun. I will say the one that gets the most like flag was this class action lawsuit against this Cinemia movie company. And what's funny is I was telling somebody about this. I was like, honestly, that was a little bit much, and I don't remember. Like I was just like, what I do remember is just I was so unreasonably mad at this company because this company was like it was like a movie pass sort of company that just failed.
I was also a user. Yeah.
And it worked for a month or two that I had it, and then they like took a year's payment, which was probably, I don't know, what, $120. It wasn't anything crazy, but I was just so mad in the moment for some reason. I think I had a lot of stuff going on in my life. I don't know. All of it channeled towards this one company to where I remember the tweet, honestly, was just the start. In my head, I was like, I'm going to find this headquarters and I'm going to go down there and bust through the doors and find the guy. I was so heated. Obviously, didn't do any of those things. Saner heads prevailed. But I just remember being so upset, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to get my money back. How do we do that? Class action lawsuit seemed to be the thing. But now that's like my favorite running joke that's on Twitter. It's just like, yo, we need to start a class action lawsuit with Kyland. And I was like, hey, I'm about it.
You're going to get more after this.
No, I mean, well, that sounds like a lot. If somebody wants to do that work, and get us paid for some actual wrongdoing, I'm down. You know, one of the student loan companies got a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit. I'm like, yo, I support that because they're robbing us.
Taran, anything else for Kyland?
I think we're good.
Yeah. Kyland, anything else that you want to make sure we talk about?
Ooh,
reality TV or beyond?
I know. I'm like, I don't know. I think that well, first off, I just want to like, you know, give some props to you guys. You guys seriously, the work you all put in to stay on top of, you know, Taran, stay on top of these feeds, stay on top of so many conversations and so many things. And it just, I can just see a sliver of it, and I can see how much work it is. And you guys have just done it so consistently with all these shows. And obviously, you know, it's a company, it's business, but there's real passion behind it that comes through every time you guys talk, and it's awesome. I just want to give you guys some props for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kyland. Yeah, that, you know, they talk about who's going to be the first person to be on all these shows, but they never talk about who's the first person to podcast all 4 of these shows.
Yo, I mean, we make your own plaque, put it up on the wall, and just like, yo, it was us. Here we go.
We did it.
You should. Talk to CBS or somebody. You know, we'll get the recognition. That's the next category for the reality award show. The awards. I think Taylor just won.
Yes. Could we win a Scoops Award for best podcast?
You know, where's the nominations? We'll find out.
Where is it? Where is it?
But yeah,
were you upset that you didn't find a product in the house that could have been something that could have been your Lay's potato chips?
You know, I felt okay with it. You know, I was yeah. It's funny. My mom who was not a Big Brother watcher until my season. Actually, I got her started like right before I left. Like I think flew through a couple of seasons to understand it, and became a fan. And now every like week, I get a text message of her and like some Lay's chips. She's like, getting ready to watch our show. Got our Lay's ready. So you know, I'm excited for the way Taylor, you know, Lay's better be giving this girl some coin. That's all I'm saying with all that she's doing for them.
If not, class action lawsuit.
Maybe if that's what we got to do, we'll make sure. But yeah, for me, I'd say as an you know, I'm just excited for what's to come. Like with these, I'm working on a variety of different projects that should be coming out on the social channels, on the YouTube and all those things. And, you know, and then we'll see what else the future holds on the reality show competition sides. I'm not going to, I don't ever see myself being on any dating thing, but you know, the challenge has a lot of vets.
The real love boat, maybe. Yeah.
You know, the real love boat. I don't know. Yeah. I'd say probably not seeing me on the dating, but it's
okay.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't know. I'm excited for everything. The message I leave also is just, you know, what we talked about earlier in terms of like, we're seeing people in this crazy pressure cooker going under a lot of things. And I feel like I was talking with some of I was talking with Azza actually, and we were just saying how like, you know, people will move so quick to judge. And it's like, we have room to say like, hey, I've been there and I think that I would say this, but even us, we're still hesitant to like, be like, you know what? I'm pretty sure I would. And I have a leg to stand on to say I probably would do XYZ in this scenario. But even then I'm going to leave some room for not knowing, and whether it's game or personal stuff or whatever. And is often, I think, impossible to truly separate the two. Just want to leave that air of, you know, these are real people undergoing real things, and in a fake world that is contrived to create drama and stress and strain, and they're not seeing sunlight. If they're not out in Fire Festival in the backyard, they're not seeing sunlight 5 days a week. So like, you know, just want to give everybody a little bit of grace as we're watching and talking about all the shows, you know, to the best that we can.
Kyland, can you make a prediction? Will there be another Challenge USA on CBS?
I mean, I think yes. I think it's been. I feel like I see people talking about it enough. I see people. All of my friends that didn't watch Big Brother that
Yeah.
watched it just for me, that then watched the challenge, like, oh, this is so much more fun to watch.
People
like
have
if they
loved
weren't
it.
already, yeah, that's what it seems like. People seem to have loved it, and it's been cool to see people that are like, even if they didn't see the other shows and they're loving it, they're just like, yo, I just like I've never watched any of those shows, but like I love the challenge, like, and so now they gave us a chance, and I think that a lot of them have really enjoyed it and have been super positive on social. And that's been, that's something, I appreciate them for giving us the chance and so glad that they could enjoy it. And, we'd love to see more of it too. We'd love to play more. So I hope that everyone does.
Okay. Kyland, where can people keep up with you?
Social media, it's all Kyland Young, except for TikTok. TikTok, it's Kyland.Young for some reason.
Okay. What are you TikToking?
Well, nothing, honestly.
Okay.
I've TikToked a dozen times, but I'm going to do more. So I would say, and I'll probably be a lot chiller, and Snapchat is Kyland Young also. I'd say that those, the Snapchat and TikTok, I'm newer to. So, but you can probably, I'm having fun just getting kind of familiarizing with them. So I'd say keep your eyes peeled to see a lot more stuff coming out there. And yeah, and those are the places that I'm at. My phone number is just 9. No, I'm just kidding. No. We'll those are the places you can find me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for making some time to talk about all of the shows. This was really, really fun. I'm glad we were able to work it out. So thank you, Kyland.
Thank you for having me. I hope it was fun. I don't know. I don't know if the episodes always goes this long, but hopefully we went long enough to keep my brand of just Kyland talking a lot going. People gotta know what to expect.
This might be one of the longer ones we've done so far.
Yeah.
Good.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, right. Taran, and it's a busy day for you, of course. What's the rest of your Thursday like?
I've still got to stream about the stock watch today over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. So you can head over there. I just watched last night's challenge episode on Twitch before this. So you can check either of those things out. And of course, I'll be live during the episode tonight of Big Brother, and then we'll podcast about it afterwards. So if you want to, you can basically be with me for the rest of the day, and then tomorrow morning, of course, for the live feed update.
Do it all over again.
So plenty to dive into.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you, guys.